Hello everyone, welcome back to the SMITE Khepri guides. This is going to be a little out of order, and I have a reason for this. I couldn't queue Joust. Actually, the only thing I could queue for was Arena, which is fairly fortunate because that's the only mode so far that I haven't started covering with Khepri. So this is going to be a little out of order. I'll do the third episode of Joust theoretically tomorrow night when theoretically they're done with whatever. I don't know. I don't know if this is the maintenance or what have you. I'm not 100% sure. It took me a little while to actually get logged in. So we're going to be cutting the line a little bit here and talking about Khepri in Arena. Now, Khepri in Arena is fairly interesting. As I mentioned in episode 1 of the Joust series, the ult in Arena can be used much more safely in Arena because your ally that you just rezzed has a greater chance of getting away and surviving because the fountain is basically right there. Additionally, the passive from Khepri makes a much larger difference since teammates in Arena tend to cluster much more in Arena for the obvious reason that there is no flanking potential here. Unlike with, say, Conquest, where the flanking potential is definitely there, your jungler often isn't in range of your passive at the start of most fights, for instance, because they're busy trying to slip around and hit the damage dealers in the back line, as an example. But that doesn't really happen a whole lot in Arena. There are some assassins, Hunbots might try it, that are kind of crazy about this, but for the most part, a lot of the assassins that are played and are effective in Arena are assassins like Hunbots and Awilix, who don't necessarily need to sneak in from the side. They can just jump in, pop something impressive. In Hunbots' case, that would be his awesome ult. Awilix, it doesn't really have anything huge to drop right into the middle of an enemy situation, but these are assassins that are going to pop right in and start laying down some absolutely insane amounts of damage. Now, in this particular circumstance, you have a couple of different choices. I'm going with Tainted Steel. Sentinel's Gift still does work well with Khepri in this particular mode, but keep in mind that, well, primarily because you're almost always guaranteed to get yourself a bunch of assists, so it's pretty easy on that score. She just wasted her mana for absolutely no reason. I'm going to go and harass her a little bit, or force her to go slow. I'm not actually chasing it, guy. I was just trying to make her nervous. So, considering their team comp, Sobek self-heals, you've got, boing, boing, boing. Persephone has self-heal, Chiron is self-heal. Pretty sure Awilix will probably build Soul Eater. Priscilla is almost guaranteed to be building some form of lifesteal. I'm thinking that I'll definitely want the Tainted Steel. Yeah, their servers are going to be a bit touchy here, because they're definitely having, I believe it's the maintenance. But yeah, you're basically looking to try to keep your team shielded up. This is really where Aura Spam is extremely useful. Especially since, unlike in other modes, the ability to more easily and efficiently give your team a health shield can really make a difference in a lot of fights. That is a large amount of bonus health that you can theoretically present and bring to bear in a combat situation in Arena. Okay, that was a good counterplay. Hunbots was right on it, so was Persephone. Alright. She doesn't have the power or penetration yet for that to be a really dangerous thing. If that had been timed perfectly, that would have been fine, but, I mean, that would require superhuman timing, and it would also require us to be in comms, which we obviously aren't, Zeus and I, so... I know we got Awilix's beads. I think Scylla. I'm not 100% sure. I hope they don't quote me on that. Guess we'll find out when I abduct someone, huh? Okay. Somebody has War Flag. Who is that with War Flag, out of curiosity? Persephone, huh? I would have expected Zeus, he can use the attack speed. Oh, I completely whiffed that. That's unfortunate because that could have been really awesome. Trying to keep an eye on. Alright, she's gonna be fine. I was gonna ult her if I needed to. I was just really not expecting to need to, and I was correct. That was a nice job. That was really well placed, well timed ult. He knew exactly how much damage he was gonna do. That was good. I'm impressed. I'm gonna stack up more assists here. I need my shoes after this. Yeah.
What a shame.
Gonna get my abduct next. That was interesting. Alright. I knew that was happening. Oh, they're gonna go the whole 9 yards on me, huh? Let me see if I can stall out here. Oh, okay. Probably dead. No, he didn't use his ability. That's interesting. And we all got out somehow, too. Well, mostly because of the health shield that I have. That was probably a huge help. A lot of people were just a little bit... The Hunbots probably still would have survived even without, but it definitely did help give us all... It definitely saved my life. Just the consistent amount of the shield there definitely saved me, along with the efforts of my allies. Obviously, I never would have survived if my allies hadn't been there. Especially shout out to the Zeus for scaring off whoever that was. I think it was Chiron. That was... I don't even know why I bothered with that. Oh, I almost timed that right. She's a fairly aggressive Scylla. I do appreciate that she's using that ability to its actual true maximum potential, but it is something that she should be careful with, considering that I can abduct her out of this. Kind of like Bastet, but more potentially fatal for her. There are much greater consequences to Scylla being caught out with that than there are Bastet, because Bastet has at least higher default base protections and HP. Scylla does that, and I catch her, she is completely doomed. So she has to be very careful with that strategy, and she now knows that I know that she's going to do that consistently. She did that at the beginning, but I just wasn't sure if that was going to be a one-shot deal or whatever. It clearly is not going to be, so that's behavior that I have to keep an eye out for, because it's going to be consistent enough that maybe I can take advantage in the future. She's doing it again. There it is. She lasted that... Oh, there we go. Give him that shield. Excellent. Shell did save him, that's good. Oh, the Scylla done goof, didn't she? Oh, she ulted? She was gonna ult me? That's just rude. I noticed Sobek ulted me as well. Well. My death is not that important. I get to pick up this, and I'm gonna go ahead and pick up a Heart Ward. I have Tainted Steel, so I'm not super concerned about their healing yet. No one's building anything specific that would cause me concern about the healing, so we're just going to leave that be. We're going to go for Blink to get a better initiation. We're going to go into Silver Talisman. Alright. Because right now, the Scylla, with her Crush having the protection reduction, I completely whiffed that. Oh man, I threw that away. That was really bad, wow. Oh my goodness. Very nice. Oh, nope, not quite there yet. Although we did get the Minotaur in, so that's pretty huge. 6 minutes and they're already almost halfway down. That's pretty impressive work, actually. Oh, my goodness. Really? Oh, she beats? Okay. Nice. That worked out. That worked out. Excellent. I'm kind of concerned about Chiron. Okay. Alright. Whoop. I somehow didn't get bitten. That's cool. Alright. Gonna let the Thebes just finish stacking. I saved her, barely. Mostly because the Chiron missed everything, but it's beside the point. I'm never fast enough. which is weird to say in arena. If I hadn't wasted my blink earlier, I probably could have gotten him killed. But unfortunately, I am a doofus, and threw away my blink for absolutely no good reason. I need Hard Ward next. And then I need Sovereignty next after that, and then I'll get Pestilence, and then I will probably finish up with... I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm going to play this one a little bit back here. I want to get my blink. I want to see if I can catch someone out. Zeus is slapping. Can I get you in here? Yep. Nice. Very nice. That was beautiful. Shell everyone, because Awilix could actually potentially wipe someone out very quickly. I doubt she has the full capacity to do so yet. So I know. Oh, you hadn't used it yet. Okay. I thought you used it to come out a little bit faster. Oh, okay. Very nice. Nope. Straight denial. I'm not sure I can get her the Penta. Nope. That's a shame. So close. Nope, not today. I died, but for a good cause. Can she pick that up? That's gonna be a good question. I turned Italian there for a second. Oh, that's alright, that's alright. We're still very ahead. We have plenty of room to work with. That was a good fight overall. Artemis was so close to a quadra there. I just wish I had what I needed to grab someone for her. That would have been so fantastic. That would have been just so nice. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you'll ever see this, the Wizard DC, but I wish I could have given you that Penta. I wanted to grab someone so bad, but no one was there. My abduct was down. I don't think I even had that much mana left. I can't remember. I might have had enough mana. Well, I had enough mana for at least... I had enough for at least another abduct, but... Oh, man. She beats it. No, we're gonna get you out of here. Denied. No, you didn't get rooted. I will there we go. Alright. Yeah, that was just absolutely insane. I was going for full ore build because essentially the reason why, and this is something that I want to talk about that I haven't really talked about with Khepri. Basically, with Khepri, there is one advantage, actually there's two advantages to building full aura on Khepri. First off, obviously, all of the aura items that increase protections provide HP to Khepri, which is great. Second off, you are able to make the bonus HP that you provide with your passive. That lasts longer when you build full aura. Now you may be wondering, if that's the case, Professor, why don't you build it more often in Conquest? Well, as I alluded to earlier, with the assassins generally trying to loop around and attack the backline, to be completely honest, it's not very often that your team, at least in the current meta, is going to be sticking close to you enough that you can consistently provide these benefits to them. I usually, in Conquest, you may have noticed, build one aura item that increases the protections of those around me, depending on the enemy team comp. In this particular case, we had Chiron, Awilix, Scylla, Persephone, and Sobek. That's 3 magic, 2 physicals. So I built Gauntlet of Thebes. In Conquest, I would have also bought Gauntlet of Thebes. That balances out ultimately. With the minions and the towers and the phoenixes and the titan, it's the 2 different protection boosts work very well with that. The reason why I wouldn't normally necessarily go with Sovereignty and Heart Ward to complete a full aura protection boost build is because in Conquest not everyone's going to be around to get the benefit of that. Often the jungler doesn't It's fairly common where the solo doesn't either. You're usually sticking close to the ADC and the mid, and even then sometimes they will wander off. So ultimately you're building all of these aura items on trying to increase the protections of 2 or 3 different people, and this is generally also why Khepri is, another reason why Khepri is considered mid-tier, is because the way that team strategies really work right now, in Conquest, at the very least, there's not a huge amount of impact that that passive can provide to other allies. To Khepri himself, sure, that can be quite a huge boost, which is why I generally insist on building HP into at least most of my builds, into most of my items. Most items that I will build on Khepri, with very rare exceptions, will have HP. For that reason, it gives me a longer time alive to help my team out. But to build all aura items removes a lot of potentially useful things that Khepri might need from other items. A great example is Genji's Guard. A little bit of health, lots of good magic protections, 10% cooldown, some MP5, lots of MP5 actually, and a passive that is substantially more useful to Khepri individually than Heartward would be to even the whole team. So that's ultimately why I don't go full aura in Conquest. I occasionally go full aura in Joust, and I pretty commonly go full aura in Arena, because even as you saw there, we were clustered up a lot of the time, and especially with someone like Persephone, Scylla, and Chiron having the ability to strike multiple close clustered targets all at once. With Chiron it's over 3 shots obviously, but the concept remains the same. But you want to be increasing those protections as much as possible, so that way those big ults don't have quite the huge impact. Now, speaking of ults, that's the essential reason why we won and they lost so quickly. Besides our team rushing some really great items for the early game, except possibly Zeus, I somewhat question the... I mean, obviously it worked out really well for him, but the Chronos Pendant is a little bit more expensive than I personally would be comfortable with, but again, that's personal preference. He did rush the shoes first, and he skipped over a starter item to specifically get the Chronos Pendant a little bit early, so at the very least, Buffy, I believe that is pronounced. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Buffy did, in fact, adjust to get that at a nice earlier point, so it worked because Zeus adjusted accordingly. If Buffy had went into some starter item, then shoes, then went for the Chronos Pendant, obviously that wouldn't really work. But it was clearly buy the shoes right off the top, save up the cash for Chronos' Pendant. I can understand that. Personally, I wouldn't build that for at its price at that point in the game, but I fully concede that the Zeus adjusted properly and did really well with it. It's just a personal preference thing. The same thing, Artemis, it's basically the same thing with Artemis and Bloodforge. Built that instead of a regular starter item, just ran right into that. Again, properly adjusted for, the starter item was skipped to get this much more expensive, powerful item. I'm okay with this. Again, personal preferences aside, this is really effective. The reason why these are really effective, specifically Bloodforge, Chronos' Pendant is somewhat effective. That cooldown is really nice, but I'll talk about that in a second. But the reason why Bloodforge is really effective in the early game is because that is 75 physical power, and the only physical item available that outpowers Bloodforge is, I think, Heartseeker? No, Heartseeker doesn't even. Is just Transcendence. A fully stacked Transcendence. That's it. Everything else is weaker than Bloodforge in terms of pure power, and at that early stage of the game, no one had protections, so Artemis was absolutely slapping with this thing. And then she goes into shoes, obviously, and then Fail Not for some crits and some penetration, which is great. And then Wind Demon, more penetration, crits. You can see the emphasis of crits. This was going to roll into an absolutely amazing build, and I personally think, with some mild adjustments, this is really how crit builds should be built. In my personal opinion, I would personally, well, for Artemis, obviously, you would go into Devourer's Gauntlet, you would go into your favorite Hunter starter item, then shoes, then Fail Not. Fail Not's a bit expensive, but it would be 4th items, that would be fine. You get some physical penetration here, you get Wind Demon, you get Deathbringer, or Dominance, whichever one you think you need at that moment. It depends on the enemy team comp. And then you sell your boots and get either whichever one of the two you didn't buy earlier, Dominance or Deathbringer. And the reason why the physical penetration is so significant, less so in Arena, but in other modes, is that you can slap down towers and the Phoenixes so much faster, and that can make a difference. Overall, the build was very strong, mostly again because Artemis skipped completely out on starter items. The Zeus, has got the Chronos Pendant here. The MP5 isn't what the Zeus was going for. Obviously, the Zeus was going for the cooldown reduction and the passive, and what the Zeus basically just wanted was the ability to spam his ult as often as possible. That is basically what this comes down to, because if Zeus can spam ult as quickly as possible, then that's Zeus potentially getting more kills. The Chain Lightning could also be used more frequently, which is incredibly powerful in Arena, again, because people tend to cluster. Hun Batz did the really great move Bluestone for some extra power, and then Jotun's Wrath for, again, cooldown. Get that ult, that powerful ult online as quickly as possible. Persephone's War Flag was a bit of an interesting choice, but I think it was made to benefit the Zeus and the Artemis, primarily. Chronos Pendant right afterwards. This was, again, a little bit expensive, but it seems like it was just going to be a high-cost build anyways. So overall, that worked out pretty fantastically. The Sobek built fine, for all things considered. It would fine overall. I would have done Talisman of Energy. I wouldn't have done Talisman of Energy at all, actually. I understand Talisman of Energy is great, but this is also, a large part of this Talisman of Energy's popularity lies in Conquest, where the movement speed can help you rotate faster. The MP5 helps you sustain longer. The attack speed helps your hunter when you're in lane with them. I understand all that, but in Arena this is substantially less important unless your team has enough attack speed that it becomes very important to have something like this, and even then, usually Shogun's Kusari will be a better play in Arena at the very least. Although Talisman of Energy does work really well in Arena also. But ultimately, this wasn't really strictly necessary because I'm being generous here too, Chiron and Awilix actually used auto attacks regularly. Everyone else was using abilities, including Sobek. So this was something of a waste here. Also, I would have built my magic protection first and at the point of Breastplate of Valor, what Sobek should have gone into at this point, considering that it was clearly a full defense build. Genji's Guard would have been a great third item, 70 magic protections, 150 health, some cooldown reduction, some MP5 if you're really interested in that. And then the next item would be Breastplate for the 30% cooldowns and some physical protections, and with the Shoes of Focus now you've got 40% cooldowns already, and it's just wonderful. And then maybe think about building your anti-heal afterwards if you really want to. But that's really my issues here. The Gauntlet of Thebes was built too late. This is Arena. There's not a whole lot of time to build these stacks, and although stacks are easier to come by in Arena because it's constant minions clashing and everything, it still was a very late point at which to build this. This was an obscenely late purchase, and as a result, I don't think it would have gotten online fast enough to matter. Would he have been able to fully stack this? Yes. By the end of a normal match, we were only 10 minutes in. Usually matches take roughly 20 to 25. Yes, I think this would have been fully stacked by the end of the game, but would it have mattered? Not really. Not really. Persephone had some interesting choices here. She was the Magi, and then, for some reason, Charon's Coin. And I'm not sure why Charon's Coin was built here. The problem with Charon's Coin in Arena is that a lot of the point of Charon's Coin... Well, Charon's Coin has 2 points. 1, sustain, 2, penetration. Now, keeping in mind that I am the only tank on the team, Persephone's building of War Flag being notwithstanding, being the only tank on the team, Persephone did not need to rush penetration. She did not need the sustain that this was going to provide her, especially with that movement speed increase. This was a very strange item to purchase in Arena, and it does not make a whole lot of sense. Obshard would have been better. Cronus Pendant, of course. This was probably going to be Rada Tahuti. Now, what I find interesting is that Chiron built the Ninja Tubby first, then Bluestone, and then kind of went with more of an ability-type focus despite having shoes of... the Ninja Tabi, which makes very little sense. That would have been better off being a Warrior Tabi, but anyways. So it was a bit of a strange build. I don't have a particular problem with it, except that Chiron is very clearly building anti-tank, and I was the only tank, and therefore that's not really necessary. The Chiron really, these first few items are fine for Chiron. That's just great. That's fantastic. Then you buy Heartseeker. Now, I'm not saying Heartseeker is bad. Quite the opposite. It's an amazing item. But it's designed and intended to be used to kill tanks. I was the only tank. So, with that in mind, this should have been something that hits squishier people harder. Rod of Tahuti would have been a great choice. And it's kind of the same, I don't know what this is going to be, but it was either going to be Brawler's Beatstick, which was very likely, or whatever. The Willish building Transcendence. Now, unlike Gauntlet of Thieves, which stacks on assists, Transcendence you require kills for. This is a bold move. I'm not even sure. It doesn't look like she finished stacking it. I would have to say probably not, because they are actually clearly showing that my Gauntlet of Thebes was evolved and the enemy's was not. This does not say evolved Transcendence, so a Willish, over the course of 10 minutes, did not finish stacking Transcendence. There are two reasons why. First off, you have a 5-on-5 with almost constant lane fighting. I use the term lane here very loosely. You have constant minion clashes. So, a Willish, in order to stack Transcendence, would have had to have not only competed with her own teammates, but also people from around the world who accepted the challenge. And that's just not how that's going to work. So, I think I went on a slight rant there. But Transcendence, yeah, Willish doesn't have the waveclear ability to compete with her own allies. Regardless, she's got exactly one line attack that'll actually hit a wave, and usually it's not enough to wipe a whole wave anyways. So this was a doomed choice from the start. Warrior Toppy is fine, Hydra's Lament is great on her, Wind Demon was an interesting choice. I'm actually not averse to building Crit at Willish, if you do it right, but Transcendence really threw her whole build away. Once the Transcendence was down, I'm sorry, but the Willish basically doomed herself to not be able to participate really well in any fights. For Scylla, basically the same run as Zeus, but instead of the Gem of Isolation, which I think was a bit of a silly pickup, considering the enemy team comp, but, I do appreciate Gem of Isolation on him. It is very strong. Scylla went with Divine Ruin, and this is another really questionable decision, because the only people that were self-healing were Persephone with her plants and Artemis. I wasn't self-healing. Zeus was not. Well, Zeus had like 12% lifesteal, which is absolutely negligible amounts of healing. Basically nothing there in terms of healing. 12% is not a whole lot there. So this was kind of an unnecessary pickup at this point. This would have probably been Spirit of the Magus or Spirit of Desolation, which it should have been in the first place. But yeah, that's what I'm going to say about that. Primarily, the issue here is that the enemy team did not have the kind of absolutely wide area slapping ultimates. Sobek, yes, does, but Sobek is also not generally intended to do damage, so that's ultimately why that fell through, literally. The Persephone trapping everyone was fine, but the Chiron never timed his ult to hers. That would have been a great combo, because the enemy doesn't have as many places to escape your arrows as you shoot them. So that would have been ideal. I lost my train of thought again for some reason. Yeah, so I've just found my train of thought again. Chiron didn't actually save his ult for the time when people couldn't run away from it or otherwise dodge it, which would be during Persephone's ult. Willish's ult is not an AoE of any kind, it's a single target ult, which I can understand and appreciate the potential usefulness of that in an arena match, but let's be really honest here. The rest of your team basically had these big, huge AoE type ultimates that they could bring to bear into a team fight, and you're just pulling out a single individual, and even then, you're not hitting that often enough to pluck them out of the air. Sobek could do it, yeah. Chiron, sure, has the potential, but ultimately, it lies to you, and you could never hit the crystal that pops people up, or at least you could, but not consistently. So, that's all I have to really say about that particular match. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, ideas, what have you, please leave them down in the comment section below, and have a great 24 hours.